It seems like the American dream is officially dead. Movies and TV shows have a knack for giving us a very sensational view of American life. Who wouldn't want to experience the city life of New York? Seems like a fun idea to take a walk downtown to your favorite coffee shop, right?
Yes, sir.
But you know what we can't idealize? Statistics. In record numbers, Americans are moving to Europe. Forget about making a convenient move over to Canada. Americans are flying across the ocean to find a new home. Now, let's take a deep dive into this phenomenon. And who knows, maybe you'll be convinced to take a great leap towards the old continent too. Europe offers peace and calm. There's no doubt that the US is the land of opportunities. Many have dubbed it as the greatest country in the world for a reason. But it seems like the glam of the 4th of July parties might not be a good enough reason to stay behind. While there is a general wave of patriotism in the country, the recent political turmoil has been pretty decisive. Many people are tired of the political divide in the country, and their solution isn't just to turn off CNN. You see, many Americans actually have left their country permanently to escape the political situation. It's wild. And it seems a bit of an exaggerated reaction too, if you ask me. However, ever since the election of Donald Trump in 2016, many young people vowed to leave the country. Back then, it seemed like a fluke, but soon enough, news outlets actually started to report this unique wave of immigration. Polls from Gallup show that 17% of Americans had actually wished to leave the country in 2017. We all know that was the time when the US was in a political crisis, but the story goes deeper than that. Here's the thing. Europe makes for a great tourist destination. The islands in Greece are a sight for sore eyes. France has that chic, romantic charm to it, and the peaceful aura you get in Iceland is matchless. Compared to political issues in the US that seem to emotionally exhaust people, the idea of an extended vacation in Europe seemed like heaven. And this is when people made a great escape to the old continent. The move wasn't about just getting some political stability in life. It was about not indulging in life that keeps changing in the process. Young people needed some sort of certainty in their life. Due to government policies, their expenses like rents or student loan payments kept changing. The numbers show that the reason behind their move to Europe was to find peace and calm. According to The Economist, between 2013 and 2022, the number of Americans in the Netherlands increased from about 15,500 to 24,000. In Portugal, it tripled to 10,000, and in Spain, it rose from 20,000 to nearly 34,000. Even the Schengen visa website noted the surge in American immigration to Denmark, Switzerland, Ireland, and the Czech Republic. Now, I know that political instability is a huge part of European life too, but Europe beats the US on several other grounds as well. This might interest you if you're about to graduate, because there's one thing that actually makes Europe an ideal destination for work. And no, we're not just talking about the great social benefits. Europe's work culture. If there's anything the pandemic has taught us, it's the importance of a work-life balance. And well, that's a concept that is pretty foreign to anyone who works in the US. It's been years since the federal government has increased the minimum wage. Even today, the minimum wage in the country is $7.25. Yep, you can't even buy a decent meal for yourself after working for an hour. Now, I know what you're thinking. Generally, wages for high-skilled and labor-intensive jobs tend to be better in the US than in Europe. But there are two issues with that. We'll talk about one right now and circle back to the other issue later on in the video. The wage gap that we've just mentioned is actually closing in. But in general, European countries tend to have a higher minimum wage than in the US. Plus, there's one thing we often ignore while comparing salaries in the US and Europe: the working hours. Folks, this is one factor that many people fumble upon. And in my point of view, Europe's work intensity makes it an ideal destination to work and start a family. You see, on average, an American with a full-time job works for 1,892 hours per year. On average, you'd have to work 5 hours a day to earn a decent salary. Now, in Europe, you only work 1,571 hours per year if you're a full-time employee. So this means, on average, you work 4 hours or less per day. This is why European countries rank much higher than the US in striking that work-life balance. Countries like Luxembourg, Spain, France, Norway, and Denmark have high scores on the European Work-Life Balance Index. For instance, Luxembourg offers full paid maternity leave for 20 weeks, and your manager won't cut a single penny from your salary if you're sick. On top of that, you get 37 days of statutory leave too. And if you're a digital nomad or self-employed, Europe is actually the best option for you. I say this because, in general, Europe has developed a supportive structure for digital nomads. Not only do many countries have a foreign remote worker visa, they also offer very relaxed prerequisites for your stay. My favorite thing about these visas is the monthly earning requirement. Many countries only require you to earn between 2,500 and 3,000 euros per month. And some countries don't even bother with these metrics. You just have to prove that you have enough financial means. Plus, once you get to countries like Spain, Portugal, Italy, or Croatia, you'll find relaxing communal support too. There are many workstations available that'll offer you free and fast Wi-Fi and semi-decent coffee. Or maybe you can just take your coffee flask with you if you're obsessed with an American version of coffee. Either way, you're all set to work in Europe. Healthcare. So let's say you've already made up your mind about moving to Europe and you're eagerly waiting for the day you'll board the plane. I know what's going to happen in the meantime though. Every single person will remind you that European states will rob you. Alright, I'm not talking about pocket pickers or muggers. In fact, crime rates in European countries are far less than in the US. But when I say Europe will rob you, I'm referring to the high taxes you'll pay here. Well, the US isn't far off. However, for an average citizen, Europe's tax bracket is pretty hefty. But don't let this fool you. In exchange for a high tax rate, your access to social services like healthcare and education is free. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about healthcare because that's what pushes most Americans to make the move to Canada. But Europe is now an emerging option too. You see, Europe offers an excellent healthcare plan to expats. Broadly speaking, there are two ways healthcare works in most EU countries. Either your taxes cover your healthcare plans, or the state charges you a minimum fee for services like ER, ambulances, and so on. Rest assured, in either case, the state offers you viable treatment options as well as accessible medicines. If you're a digital nomad, you might be required to get health insurance. But don't worry, those insurance plans are heavily regulated by the government, and you won't be overcharged for any service whatsoever. Now, I don't think I need to take a deep dive into how flaky the US healthcare system is. Recent studies show that on average, an American is spending $12,900 on healthcare. And well, that shouldn't be shocking you. A vial of insulin costs about $170 in the US. Yeah, things are that bad. Education and culture. So let's get this streamlined, shall we? The wages in America are stagnant. You're forced to work more hours without any added benefits, and you have to splurge on healthcare. Yep, no wonder Americans are moving to Europe in record numbers. And we haven't even talked about the student debt trap in the US yet. There are obvious reasons why Europe is the top destination for Americans who want to study abroad. The old continent has many renowned universities in the world. It has a great cultural and heritage value, and your resume shines with a European education on it. But most importantly, education in Europe is cheap. Universities in Germany offer free education for non-EU students. You have to be mindful about language barriers and work restrictions, but mostly, many American students have a great experience there. Even France offers cheap alternatives, as the tuition amounts to 2,770 euros or $2,989. If you choose to go to a renowned university in the UK, your tuition cost would boil down to 40,000 euros on average. Even so, that's still cheaper than attending a B-tier college in the US. Virtually, there is no added cost of textbooks or service fees. Library systems in most European countries are remarkable. Plus, many universities in Europe offer affordable living options for a fee as low as €200 per month. The living costs of resident student halls can go up to €800 per month, but that depends on the luxuries you can afford. Even then, you wouldn't have to pay $25,000 for student accommodation. Believe it or not, that's the lowball cost of getting student hall residence in US universities or colleges. The constant increment of tuition fees isn't a problem in Europe. And, well, you'll be finishing your academic journey with incredible memories. Traveling within the EU is easy, given their open borders policy. And with student paperwork, you'll get multiple opportunities to interact with several cultures. Plus, spending your summer break wandering in the streets of Rome sounds like a terrific idea to me. Even if you choose to stay in the area of your residence, I'm sure the public transport system won't disappoint you. The transit system makes traveling easy and cheap. Not to mention, most Western European countries are more inclusive than the US. There's little scrutiny around gender identities and sexual orientations. So yeah, European universities offer a holistic sense of a safe space. For them, it's not just a buzzword. Does it now make sense why Americans are moving to Europe in record numbers? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, do us a solid and smash that like button.